Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, and unlike Lamar Odom on Dancing with the Stars, I did not get kicked off our show after the first episode. So I am going to take advantage of my new lease on life to bring in Jeff Cavalunas from Greyhound Cross Country, Katie Burnett from Greyhound Volleyball. I'll have a high school spotlight courtesy of Orlando and Landry. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Really good weekend for Greyhound women's soccer as they got a W to improve to 3-0. That win was at home. Really good weekend last weekend for Greyhound men's soccer. They got 2 wins on the road, and for the first time ever in franchise history, they started out the season 4-0. Greyhound football had a 20-point lead at Colorado Mesa, lost that lead, went into overtime, and got out of Grand Junction with a 7-point thrilling win. And if you're a fan of rodeo, and who in this part of the world is not, College Days Rodeo started tonight. It'll continue tomorrow and Saturday at Lewis Cooper Arena. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out, and I'll bring in Katie Burnett right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we welcome to the set of Sportslook for the very first time the assistant volleyball coach at Eastern New Mexico University, Katie Burnett. And Katie, welcome to Sportslook.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Katie, first and foremost, where are you from originally, and how did you get to become the assistant volleyball coach at Eastern?
I'm from Round Rock, Texas. It's a little north of Austin, so the central area. I've been playing volleyball most of my life, and I got the opportunity to be the graduate assistant at Cameron last year. Or the last 2 years, and we played against Eastern. I got to know the team and the coach a little bit, and I've heard nothing but great things about Sia Poyer, so I was just jumping at the opportunity to come here and really work with them and with him.
Katie, where did you go to school as an undergrad?
I was at Colorado State University, Pueblo, up there in the cold.
Very good. Was volleyball always your sport growing up, or did you just gradually gravitate towards it?
It kind of found me pretty early. I tried kickball and basketball and kickball. I don't know if there's an opportunity to play further, but it didn't seem like it when I was young. And then basketball, I just didn't have it. So I really took a liking to volleyball and really found my niche in it, and I just fell in love with it.
What position did you play?
I started as a setter, and then wherever they needed me. In high school, I played setter all the way to my senior year. They switched me to libero in club. And then I finished out libero when I played in college.
And what was it that intrigued you enough to get you to Pueblo, Colorado?
They had a nice psychology program, which I was looking at. And then the coaches and the team there just was a really family atmosphere like we have here at Eastern. And I just knew that was something that I wanted.
Katie, at what point in your life did you know that you wanted to go into coaching?
Just last year. I was doing it as a way to help me get my master's degree, and the coach that I was working under basically pushed me in the direction and said, this is something you need to pursue. And so I just kind of took it and ran with it, and it's been really enjoyable and really rewarding.
What did you originally think that you were going to do?
I thought I was going to be a counselor. I've worked a lot with sexual assault victims and survivors of domestic violence, and I just really still have a passion for that, so I like to volunteer through that. But I did not. Even growing up, like my mom even says now, she was like, you always said you would not be a volleyball coach. And then here I am.
Well, I was going to ask you who the major influences were, but it sounds like just being in the right place at the right time.
Yes, there are definitely coaches that I look up to and that I really follow through on how they coached me. But it definitely was just kind of a fell into it sort of situation.
How much did you really understand about the nuts and bolts of being a coach before you became one?
I knew that there's a lot to it, but being on the player side, you think that you're so busy with academics and with the practices, but then you go on the coaching side and you're like, oh my goodness, they are up at 5, they're in bed at midnight, they're constantly busy. If you're not working on your team, you're working on your future team, you're looking at your opponents. There's a lot more to it than I had anticipated as a player.
You talked about the fact that you did have some familiarity when you were at Cameron with Eastern New Mexico University, but there are a lot of teams in the Lone Star Conference. Why Eastern? What intrigued you about the school or about the actual volleyball program?
Whenever we've played Eastern, and I played against them one year, they're always so scrappy, and they have this heart and this drive, and they just are not going to let that ball drop. Whether they send a free ball over, or they down ball it, they're going to get the ball back over the net, and that just really frustrates team, and it's hard to teach that. And so I fell in love with the way they played, and then again, Sia Poyer, I've talked to JUCO coaches, I've talked to Lone Star coaches, I've talked to previous coaches, club. No one has a bad thing to say about him. He knows the game. He's very passionate, and I really wanted to learn from him.
What sort of delineation is there between what you do and what he does? What are your responsibilities, and where it's like, no, that's a head coaching kind of thing?
There's a few things that are definitely more office-y, like when it comes to the budget and scholarships, and end all say, that's definitely him. I'm more behind the scenes, making sure everything's ready to go, making sure the players have what they need, and there has been a few role changes. So I'm going to be taking a more dominant approach in practices and in the games as we kind of get things settled in within the program.
I was just going to ask you, what is your responsibility being in the second seat on the bench?
So I'm moving into the first seat as Poyer takes some time off, and it's going to be new.
Well, we are breaking news here on sport. My goodness.
Don't know if I was supposed to say that, but
wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking, and he's helping me through it and really just pushing me in full confidence, and it's going to be definitely a learning curve and a lot of questions as I kind of jump into the first seat and figure out how the game's going to be run.
Well, I am really glad I have you on as my guest. Well, obviously, there's nothing like on-the-job training, I guess.
Yes,
so you're
yeah.
going to get a healthy dose of that. So in terms of stepping in as the temporary head coach, you were kind of a buffer to begin with. You were, okay, you're kind of in the girls' side,
Yeah.
you know, kind of on this, but now you've got to be the authority figure, and you're not that much older.
No, I'm not.
So how are you going to lead?
I'm doing my ideas just kind of by example. Like, we really instill time management, being responsible, and I'm just making sure the girls see that from me and making sure that they know we're here to get some W's. We're not just here to goof around. So when practice time, it's practice time. When it's off the court, then we can have a little bit more fun. But we really just want to make sure we're getting the job done and having fun while we're doing it.
I've had the privilege of seeing you in action a few times. NCAA rules allow you to work individually with players from time to time, and I saw you out there, and you definitely set a good example because, I mean, you were like, okay, this is what we need to do, and there was no wasted time. So I think you'll do just fine when it comes to time management.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I love when the girls want to come and get extra reps. It really just shows that they're driven, and I love getting on the floor, so it's always nice.
The season starts out as usual with some tournaments, but because the Lone Star Conference has expanded, it's like we're going to be playing conference matches here pretty much regularly for the rest of the season.
Yes, we started with the tournament in San Marcos, California, and then in Denton, Texas, and now this weekend we're coming in strong with Lubbock Christian at home on Friday and then Angelo on Saturday. So we're really excited, and then it's go, go, go with the new conference. We technically only have 6 in our little pod, so those will be our conference matches, but then everything else is crossover, and those teams are still in our conference, so it's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, obviously, really almost right up until the start of the year, we didn't quite know how things were going to work with sports like volleyball that got so many new teams. So on paper, who are shaping up to be the better teams in the Lone Star Conference?
There has been a vote out. Tarleton, they did a really good job last year finishing on top with Commerce. So those two are definitely top teams, as well as one of the newer teams that's coming in, Arkansas Fort Smith. They're expected to do pretty well. And then WT and Angelo are always anticipated to do pretty well. But with merging with the Heartland, there's just that unpredictability of these teams have always played each other. These teams have always played each other. There's been a couple of crossover competition, but we certainly don't know those teams quite as well as we do the Lone Star teams, the original Lone Star teams.
Well, Katie, since you were nice enough to be my guest, and since you are going to be the head coach this weekend, let's, and that's kind of, silly. It's like, really? Yeah.
Hearing that out loud, terrifying.
So let's review, what are the starting times for the two matches?
Friday against Lubbock Christian, it'll be 6 p.m., and then Saturday against Angela, it'll be noon.
Okay. And I will point out, this is kind of shameless self-promotion, but I also do radio for Rooney Moon Broadcasting. Rooney Moon Broadcasting is the sponsor of their match on Friday.
And we're excited to have them. They're going to be giving out some little gifts, and we're hoping...
Koozies.
Yes, I didn't know if I was allowed to say it. So we'll have koozies for some of the audience, and then we're also going to go along with that and have a Hawaiian theme on Friday.
Okay, well, I am actually the representative that's going to be representing Rooney Moon Broadcasting.
Perfect.
So should I wear a Hawaiian shirt?
If you would like to, we would love it.
Okay, I am totally on it. Well, Katie, congratulations on getting the job, and best of luck as the interim head coach.
Thank you so much. We're excited for the season.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out and we'll cue up a high school spotlight right now.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of High School Spotlight. I'm Orlando Perez.
And I'm Landry Widener.
Last week, we were able to head up to Texaco to catch their matchup with the Capitan Tigers.
It was a very lopsided game from the get-go, and we're going to get right into those highlights to see who came out on top.
The Capitan Tigers come into this one in search of their first win of the season.
And the Wolverines on the other end looking pumped up, trying to improve on their 1-2 record.
Texaco going to get this one started through the air game as quarterback Gabe Dickerman finds his man Kate Collins for an easy pass and catch, and the Wolverines would pick up a first down on their very first play from scrimmage.
Dickerman's going to keep the passing game going as he hits number 22. That's Braden Bender with the nice catch that results in the Wolverines' first touchdown of the night. This will put them ahead at 7-0 with 7:37 left in the first.
Running back Casey McCarty would do the honors for the Tigers, picking up good yardage on the ground before finally being stopped by the Wolverines defense.
And their next play will be unsuccessful thanks to that Texaco defense with the awesome stop. That's number 74, Avante Bumgardner with the tackle.
Next play for the Tigers, same result for the Wolverines as that defense would come up with another tackle for loss, getting their offense back on the field.
And after the punt, Texaco will get their offense going again with a pitch to number 16, Zeke Solis, who is almost brought down early, but fights his way down the field for the gain.
Dickerman looking like Tony Romo on this next play as he escapes a couple of Tiger defenders and finds a wide open Solis. Solis would take care of the rest as he races his way into the end zone for another Wolverines touchdown. Texaco adds on to their lead early, 14-0.
Capitan will try to get things going through the air. That's number 44, Tyson Preciado with a catch, and he will be brought down out of bounds.
The Tigers' offense would stall out, forcing a punt back to Texaco. Number 3, Anders Nelson, fields the kick and swerves his way through traffic, sets up a couple of nice blocks for his teammates, and finally cuts it back inside as Nelson would take this one 80 yards to the house. Anders Nelson, the junior receiver, making a big-time play for the Wolverines on special teams. Nelson's return makes this a 21-0 ball game as we start the second quarter. And if this were Madden, this game would be over.
Texaco now with a trick play. That's Nelson again with a big run before he is pushed out of bounds.
The Wolverines will keep the ground and pound going as Solis bounces this one outside and races up the far sideline for another Texaco first down.
Dickerman now setting up his offense. He's going to roll right and search for a target, but throws the interception to number 27, Casey McCarty, who will change the possession for the Tigers.
The Tigers weren't able to get anything going on their offensive drive, but Casey McCarty making up for it on defense with this big-time hit to stop the Wolverines from getting a first down.
Dickerman is now going to throw up a prayer to number 24, Gabriel Bailey, who is wide open, and he's going to take this one all the way into the end zone. This will bring the Wolverines up on the scoreboard 28-0 with 1:17 left in the half.
The Tigers pinned deep near their own end zone, looking to get some type of momentum going, but that Wolverines defense has just been shutting them down all night and come away with a safety on this play. After the 2 points, the score is now 30-0.
They're going to bring in another one with the sneaky handoff that fooled everyone, including myself on the camera. Now the Wolverines are up 37-0 with 8:02 left in the third.
The Tigers back on offense look to set up the running back screen to McCarty, and they get the play off as McCarty is finally able to pick up some positive yardage.
And Weems will throw up a prayer on this next play. That will result in an interception with Nelson coming down with the ball.
The Wolverines will make their way down to the goal line and tack on another rushing touchdown, increasing the lead to 43-0. Texaco would go on to win this game in big fashion as they get the shutout at home.
Thanks for watching High School Spotlight.
And before we send it back to Doc, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, photos, and highlights.
Once again, I'm Landry Widener.
And I'm Orlando Perez.
And we'll see you next week.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Landry and Orlando for that high school spotlight. And now we bring back to the set no stranger to Sportslook, the head coach of cross country and track and field, Jeff Cavalunas. And Jeff, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Doc. Great to be here.
Last time I saw you was last spring. We were hosting for the first time ever the Lone Star Conference Track and Field Championships. And what a great event.
It went well. You know, I was really happy. The competition was phenomenal. The athletes from the other schools, our schools, I just had great performances across the board. I mean, the meet went smooth. You know, one or two little glitches here, but nothing that really disrupted anything. And, you know, our people here at Eastern and Portales did an awesome job at stepping in and helping run this meet. I mean, we had all our student athletes there just helping out at some point. So it was really a great community project, and it was a great event. I mean, I'm finally getting recovered from it, but we had a great conference championship here.
I was really impressed. I volunteered some time and helped out with the hammer throw. And when I came back to the actual track itself, they were running sprints. And the lane judges were all coaches and assistant coaches at Eastern. And the people getting ready then to put hurdles on the track were all, like you said, athletes from Eastern. So yeah. And the community members, the Bennetts, I mean, yeah. So many people, Jack Willis coming out. It was just great how the community pulled together.
Yeah, it was really appreciated. A lot of support.
And of course, some really good performances by your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we proved that we belong.
We did. I mean, we had just solid performances and just some really outstanding ones. Our women's 4x100 meter relay team that went on and was All-American team just had a fantastic day, and Ifar Monad and just a number of people competing at home. It was nice.
Well, we turned the page and now we are in the fall, so we're talking cross country, and you are the head coach of both the men and the women. Right. And of course, last few years, the women have had some pretty good success in cross country.
Yeah, we've been able to really put together a great squad, for the women's team. They've having some success, and they did well before I even got here. But I think we're continuing that. When we had Mercy, was runner of the year, that was really something. And obviously she's done with cross country as track. But we're going to have some young ladies, step up that are returning. Evelyn Cheptaw, was a top 10 runner. Doing very well. We may lose Mason Swanson this fall, as she had some surgery in the spring, some injuries, but she's back in training, but we're not sure yet if she's going to be ready. to compete. But some young runners. They brought in a great group of freshmen and some outstanding transfer students. We have a young lady that transferred from Pratt Community College, Aminata Kenyawani, that again should be right up there, one of the top spots in the league, running very strong right now. So we're going to see where we're at. Guys, a great group. Jesse Madrid transferred from South Plains College. Again, she'll step in and do very well. And John Fuentes from right up at Clovis, freshman, was very successful in high school and has been already running strong. So
I was going to ask you, so from the men's team, who are the returners that you're expecting to be point getters for you this year?
Yeah, I mean, we have a younger men's team also. Toby Kirk's returning. Ifar is running cross country and is going to make some good contributions. So those are some of our top returners there. So it's really a mix this year with the men and the women, and returners and new faces out there.
How far, we're talking about Ivar Monod, who is your outstanding 800-meter runner in track and field. How far has he ever run in a race before this year in cross country?
He has done a couple cross country
okay.
races prior. I mean, it hasn't been something we've focused on. This year as a senior, we're doing a little bit more than we have in the past, just to develop a little more strength and a little more aerobic capacity to kind of help him get to the next level, in the 800-meter in track and field. So it's pushing his range. It's it's a long race for him, but he is really working hard and understands that a couple of those races will benefit him and give him some additional strength. Probably not going to be able to step in and compete against true 5,000, 10,000 meter runners who run cross country, but for his strength and conditioning in the fall, it's going to pay big dividends come spring for him.
Well, and if he's close to the end, I like his chances because he's got a phenomenal kick. So
He'll crank it up.
Since you've been at Eastern New Mexico University, I mean, you've actually had kids that you recruited that have gone through the program. Some kids you just know right away. I mean, you can tell from the minute they come in, they're going to be good. And other kids surprise you. You kind of take a flyer, as the expression goes, on them. Who's been the most pleasant surprise that you've had in cross country, male, and who's been the most pleasant surprise, female?
I think one of the surprises, on the women's side has been Mason Swanson. Sometimes she doesn't want to admit she's can run cross country pretty well. Is more of a mid distance on track, but she's a very competitive person, and she's one when we get on the starting line. I know she's going to put everything into it, and she's going to compete and really be successful. On the men, we've had a little more fluctuation in there. Ifar's been a nice surprise to be able to step up at times since I've been in here. So it's a good group. Good group.
When you say goodbye to your returning kids, the kids that are going to come back in the spring, you probably say, "Okay, be in good shape when you get back to Portales." But do you actually tailor make a workout regimen for them, or do you just kind of trust that they're going to be able to figure out what they need to do?
I'll tailor the summer training for each person a little bit. I kind of have a general training plan. With the volume that we'd like them to run. But again, everybody is a little bit different. So I tailor, exactly maybe the weekly mileage, how much they run depending on their experience, their background. A freshman, I'm not going to probably try to have run as many miles a week as a junior or senior, just, so they don't come in injured. I want them to be healthy. A senior that's experienced, we're going to try to ask them to really, run more over the summer. Some of the girls we're pushing trying to run 60, 65 miles a week, that are junior or senior. And some of the guys, can we progress them up to 85 or 90 miles a week? As opposed to an incoming freshman from high school, maybe never ran more than 30 or 40 miles a week. So, to have them do a similar program, that an upperclassman does, would probably put them in a situation to get injured. So, I really try to sit down and tailor it a little bit for each individual. And I'll try to do that during the season too. Everybody responds to the training a little bit differently. So my job as a coach is to learn how those athletes respond to the training program I have, tweak it so they can be at their best.
In a perfect world, all of your kids would have speed, they'd have endurance, they'd have heart.
Yeah.
If you had to say there's one thing that you really look for in a runner when you're going to recruit a runner, what's the one thing you're really looking for?
I'd really like to find that heart, that competitiveness. And I think when an athlete has that competitiveness, just doesn't want to get beat, doesn't like it, doesn't want to lose. They put so much focus into running hard and trying to catch that next person that the times will automatically happen, especially in cross country where it's not as much time based as track and field. So that athlete that just is going to give all they got to catch that next person and try to win that race, that's going to put so much into it that as they cross the line, they're bent over the trash can at the end. I think that's going to really propel them as a collegiate athlete, in these settings. And that's some of the things I've seen that in our women that have been successful. Mason Swanson, Mercy Rotich, our new person, Eminata. Is that way. She's going to get out and compete and doesn't want to get beat by anybody. And the outcome happens because of that.
Well, Jeff, congratulations on the success that you've had in track and field, success on the success that you've had in cross country, and we wish you the best of luck this fall.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our second and final interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Last week, I was in full-blown indignant mode at the NCAA because of the treatment of women's athletics at Kent State University. Well, tonight I'm happy to tell you I've got a happy story about NCAA athletics. It involves the University of Virginia, where Tony Bennett is the head men's basketball coach, and because he won a national championship, the University of Virginia came to him and said, "Tony, we're going to pay you a lot more money." And Tony said, "No." And they said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, take the money that you're going to give to me and give it to my program, but give it to the other programs at the University of Virginia. They deserve it more than I do." Well, Tony, you have officially restored my faith in humanity. And that is going to wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Katie Burnett from Greyhound Volleyball and Jeff Cavalunas from Greyhound Cross Country. I'd like to thank Orlando and Landry for the high school spotlight. I had a floor crew led by Mr. Arajah tonight. So for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we welcome to the set for the very first time the assistant volleyball coach, Tracy Burnett. And Tracy, welcome to Sportslook.
Katie.
Katie, that's... Can we do that again? That'll definitely be on the blooper reel at the end of the year.